I wanted to get Fritz Springmeier on about other issues he wanted to cover, about how they're turning the medical system into a tyranny. But because of all this coming up in the news, I thought we'd bring that up. But Bloodlines, the Illuminati goes over this. It was the first book I read more than 15 years ago, around 15 years ago, that said Prince Charles is direct descendant of Vlad the Impaler and thinks he's a vampire and goes around doing all this. And then now it's all over the news. Prince Charles loves Vlad, says he's a direct bloodline, owns a castle in Transylvania, and spends a lot of his time running around the woods at night because he thinks he's Vlad the Impaler. And then it turns out they are not even a German bloodline, but a Transylvanian bloodline. And then that itself goes back into antiquity. But here it is, Bloodlines, the Illuminati, Fritz Springmeier. It was out of print. We had it reprinted for Fritz, and it's available at Infowars.com, I should add. And it's just full of stuff that's over the top. I read this 15 years ago and didn't believe a lot of it. And then over to the time, I kept running into pieces of the book in mainstream news. Last year, the Daily Mail reported on the royals eating body parts, and they've still got groom with a stool and all this. So, see, they're predators. They see you as an animal. You're their favorite dish. The more pain to children, the better. And they've turned the murder of children into a procedure. They grab your two-year-old, the two-year-old cries. They give it drugs, Prozac, Ritalin, other things until the child goes into convulsions. Then they put them on antipsychotics. Then the child dies. That's a good kill. That's a good kill. It came out in the news. People are getting arrested for saving the babies, eating them, doing rituals with them. They'll keep the kid alive in a partial birth, put it to the side, and sacrifice it a few days later. You know, they'll take care of it just to, I mean, it's big business because they think they're getting power. They really just like to hurt innocent children. You want to take care of them and love them and build them up. They want to torture them, something fierce, while they scream and cry. But better than a newborn baby, the crying isn't enough. They like a 3-year-old or a 4-year-old who can really beg for mommy. Just like the police torturing Kelly Thomas to death, begging for daddy. That's their song. That tears your heart out. That, to a Satanist, is like ambrosia. That is the ether in which they swim. The pain of the innocents. Okay? And again, people can't handle this because of their normalcy bias, their cognitive dissonance, the mass Stockholm syndrome that we're under. The learned helplessness. But I'm here to break that. Fritz Springmeier, thank you for coming on. Shifting gears here with you today. Again, tell us about why the elite love to hurt children so much and why, from your research, every culture who gets these elites in power starts mass public murder of children. What is it about murdering children, ordering the firstborn to be killed, as ancient cultures all basically did? What is it about this?
The child is innocent, so that makes the sacrifice even more powerful. You're taking what's pure and sacrificing it. It's the supreme sacrifice. And also, it's just the concept of taking something beautiful and dirtying it. Some people, you know, if they're walking along the beach and they see a sandcastle, they have the irresistible urge to go over and kick.
Okay, your Skype cut out for a minute. Your Skype cut out. They have an irresistible urge to do what?
Irresistible urge to dirty what's beautiful. You know, if sometimes you may have noticed somebody walking along the beach and there's a sandcastle there and they can't resist walking over and kicking it. It's the concept of taking something pure and innocent and spoiling it. And we see this around us. We see so much on this beautiful planet that's being spoiled, and it's all part of a same mindset.
Well, that's why now even HBO has 5- and 4-year-old girls doing sexual acts on TV with giant objects, but they say that's okay, and that we're just square because we don't like it.
Yeah, it's to pervert, it's to destroy, it's to ruin what's nice and clean and pure. I remember on the microcosm meeting a man who he had met a nun, and because this nun was pure and clean, he had this irresistible urge to spoil her, and he only seduced her just so that he could spoil her. and then once he had ruined her, why, he threw her away. This is the type of mindset we're dealing on the macrocosm.
See, I have an irresistible urge, like turning the light on at midnight and finding a big cockroach on the floor to bash these people's brains out.
and the extension of this is if they will do it to innocent little children, what are they going to do to you and I? What kind of poisons are they sticking in us? And what is going on in our lives that show this callous
yeah, let's talk about that. I mean, why are they putting fetus parts flavoring in Pepsi, the secret sauce? Why do they want to put fluoride in the water? Why exactly? Spiritually, it's more than that, exactly. Their religion is hurting us and our beautiful minds. These people are the ultimate trash. They are the ultimate trash, and we will defeat them. I was talking to one of our nightly news reporters and anchors, Darren McBreen. By the way, folks, we've gone through the 600, 700 videos that came in for the reporter contest. I'm trying to watch them when I'm on the road driving to Bilderberg. I'm going to try to watch hundreds of them and get it down to the top 10 or so, and then we're going to put the top 10 out and let you guys vote on them. That won't be binding, but just to give us an idea of what you think for the reporter contest. But McBreen was talking about having to go to Walmart to get something that wasn't anywhere else, and he went through the children's aisles, going someplace in there, and it was all little dolls with tiny mini skirts and dressed like hookers. And they've had Nickelodeon brass a few years ago come out and say, we're now going to target the preteens with sexual stuff. And again, it's meant to wreck your children. My children are so innocent compared to other children their age, but they know about science and literature and mathematics and things that are good in the world, but they don't know about, demon conjuring video games and stuff. And so people that actually, at a young age, learn about the world, it actually stunts them. And that's what the system's looking for, is basically ruining people before they develop discernment. Comments on that, Fritz Springmeier?
You're 100% correct. You're very eloquent today in describing all of this. And I've noticed it too, what you're saying, how we have this targeting of the children in sex and violence, and
with Prozac, and everything else. I mean, but what about the dungeon keeper stuff where they admit the CPS grabs children and then drugs them till they basically die?
Yeah, and a whole generation is being given Ritalin and things like this, so that they're, I've met people that became drug addicts because they were given Ritalin in school.
Oh, they admit that. Yeah, and that's the plan.
Yeah, and it's it's over the top.
Now you wanted to get into medical stuff. Why do they want to adulterate our bodies?
Well, one thing, it's how you control people. As long as people are sick and having problems thinking straight, why they're easier to control. And also, besides being able to control them, by making sure that we're all constantly getting sick, we become dependent upon their medical system. Their medical system extracts large amounts of money from us, and you'll notice that surgery and drugs are their medical methodologies of choice, because that's what they make money off of. Something that they can't make money off of and make us dependent on them, like these alternative medical methods that would actually heal us and be inexpensive and something that we could use and control ourselves, they suppress. So we see that the American Medical Association and some of these other organizations that the general population think are there to protect them are actually working more as a mafia, to like the FDA. And you had Dr. Whittaker on your show before, and a lot of these people that are coming up with good alternatives, things that will actually help us, are being ran out of town. They're being put in jail. They're having their careers ruined.
Well, Fritz, notice that when we made the American Medical Association admit fluoride shouldn't be used in children 6 or younger because it causes fluorosis, not to mention cancer, suddenly it was all over the shelves in more toothpaste, in bottled water, fluoride for kids. But it's just like all the sugar gum now, all of it at the store. I mean, there could be 100 brands, has aspartame in it, and I see these little kids buying it, knowing it's an excitotoxin and very deadly, basically wood alcohol, and the kids all look unhealthy that are getting it, by the way. And I've gotten where I just say, hey, that's got aspartame in it, that's going to hurt your child. And sometimes the parents get mad at me, but I don't care. I'm just going to make scenes everywhere, Fritz. I'm done. That's what everybody needs to do, make scenes everywhere. Break the silence, break the normalcy bias, warn people, stay there. I want to come back and look at this because it's more than just that. They're obsessed with defiling our temple. They believe that if they can do that, they can control us. And they're control freaks. They love the fact that they know that they're poisoning us through the food, the water, the air. It's a big joke to them. I want to ask you, where is it all leading? Fritz Springmeier, author of Bloodlines, The Illuminati, available at Infowars.com. By the way, I'm really into books that are out of print, that are seminal, and Bloodlines, The Illuminati was out of print, and so we got 5,000 of them printed, and those are almost been sold out. We're about to reprint. I found out the one lone little publisher, and he's got, well, I'm not going to get into the personal stuff. This book is basically going out of print. Could be going out of print. It's very hard to get. It's very expensive. It sells for as much as $200 on some of the websites out there, where we're selling it for right above what we bought it for. So we're selling it at a price to get these out to everybody. Unabridged, Tragedy and Hope, A History of the World in Our Time, Carroll Quigley. And it goes on, a definitive work of the world's power structure. This book, only a few thousand got printed. The elite had the plates destroyed. We've got news clips of Quigley complaining the book got out. It was only meant for the elite. To understand the minds that are shaping the world, read the book that shapes their minds. And it's got Bill Clinton quoted here. Here's Carroll Quigley. The powers of financial capitalism had a far-reaching plan, nothing less than create a world system of financial control in private hands, able to dominate the political system of each country and the economy of the world as a whole, Carroll Quigley. And I have articles here where they can't even come out with the movie Red Dawn, the remake, because it had communist Chinese invading America with Latin Americans. So they had to spend something like $1 million, I was reading, to re-edit it as North Koreans. And still it may not come out because China's putting pressure. And I have USA Today with the Chinese government saying, we want to influence the American people. We've just bought the biggest theater chain in the United States. And we want to buy up the media to influence the people. They don't even, but I mean, so what? Let the communist Chinese run the media. It's already foreign banks that run our media. I mean, this is so off the charts. But Tragedy and Hope, A History of the World in Our Time, Carroll Quigley, is available at Infowars.com. Your purchase also supports the broadcast. You get a free citizen rule book with it and bumper stickers. But look, I mean, they're in nice plastic. When you get it shrink wrapped, heavy duty shrink wrap. I mean, this is a nice, nice, nice book. And it is, I've been going from memory saying 1,000 pages. It's 1,300 pages long, and it's got maps in it and stuff. It's over 1,300 pages, 1,348 pages. And I don't expect you to read the whole thing, but it's important to have this because this was given to State Department and CIA people who couldn't understand we're funding communist and fascist. How does this work? Well, it works by full spectrum dominance. The bankers fund all the major sides as long as they call for big government. That's like Mitt Romney, Barack Obama. Tragedy and Hope, available with Bloodlines, The Illuminati. These two books together, in fact, I ought to combo them. I'm going to go tell them to combo them and discount them both even more if you get both together at Infowars.com. Okay, I've been ranting here, Fritz. continuing. Why do they want to adulterate the body? What are ways they're doing this? And in the news today, what are some of the main things you're looking at? And again, where does the Illuminati want to take us?
Okay. As you were saying earlier before we took our break, that you were going to ask where some of this was leading, and I would call people's attention to the fact that the United States is the world's reserve currency, and China would like to dethrone the United States as the world's reserve currency. If it was just China, I might not be so concerned, but I know that the Illuminati, the top financiers in the world, the powers that be financially, want to destroy the U.S. dollar. And so they want to dethrone the United States' dollar from being the world's reserve currency. What does that mean for us? What it means is throughout our lifetime, we've had all of these people saying that the U.S. economy is out of control, you know, our government's overspending, and that this house of cards is going to collapse, but it never collapses. And we haven't become a third world country like Brazil or Argentina. Our economy hasn't collapsed like Argentina. Why not? Because other countries come to our rescue and buy our debt because we're the world's reserve currency. But there's a move now to take that away from us. Once we're dethroned as the world's reserve currency, then there's nothing to really stabilize the dollar from hyperinflation. Once we're into hyperinflation, we're into serious problems. And this is where having poor health comes into play, because people that do not get adequate nutrition are now ripe for something like an epidemic, influenza, or some other epidemic. And you can historically go back and see when there were famines, the elite would follow that famine with an epidemic. And then you would have major population decreases.
And by the way, we have ignorant people listening. It might be new listeners. Even the Huns and others would catapult rotten plague bodies over walls they were sieging. They knew about plague thousands of years ago and how to use it. It's in British Army manuals from 300 years ago, you know, how to lance pox boils and put it on blankets and give it to Indians you want to kill. So you're absolutely right about that. So, you know, the bottom line is population control and genocide. The useless eaters, as certain people view them, will be decreased in numbers. On the flip side, those of us who believe in a wonderful creator, he said that according in his word, he said, according as his divine power has given unto us all things that pertain unto life and godliness. So what I'm calling people's attention to is everything we need for godliness, everything we need for health and life has been provided. We need to identify those things and see how those things are being taken away from us. For instance, they started irradiating the meat and taking away essential amino acids. And spraying viruses on the meat. They spray special viruses on the meat. Folks, I'm not joking.
Right. And then you've got your genetic modification of things. This all works together because you have beef and grain monopolies. You have these bloodlines having food cartels. These cartels have gone way back for, you know, families like Cargill, Bundy, Bunge, McMillan, Andre, Agnelli, Nestle, Riconti. These families go way back hundreds of years. And so the food supply being controlled plays a role in the next stage, which is the medical system being controlled, all working together.
Well, think how cold-blooded it is. They know there's a backlash against fluoridation. So now it's everywhere. Fluoride your kids. I was in CVS yesterday, and they had loudspeakers going saying, get your church or your work discounts with the flu shot. Flu ads everywhere. Fluoride for babies everywhere. They know devastates their brain. Aspartame gum. I mean, this is so cold-blooded. They just want to hurt people.
Yes, and if you don't follow the program, then they have ways to come and monitor that. And for instance, when I was teaching school, when I was Amish, the county discovered this parochial school, and this lady, a county official, came in and she said, I want you to provide me the names of all the parents who are not getting all of the shots for their children. Well, I had some parents that, due to their conscience, would not allow their children to have all of these shots. And so I couldn't, in good conscience, provide her. I was not going to be the enforcer for the system. And I did not give her the names of those families.
Listen, I went to buy a kayak yesterday, and they had at Academy, and they want you to fill out all this stuff about you and your all this data. And I said no, and they said, well, the police like to have it. I mean, this country, you can't even buy a little boat now because you might be a terrorist. I mean, it's so ridiculous, Fritz. But then it's admitted that Al-Qaeda works for the U.S. government in the news. I mean, it's just all hiding in plain view. How much crazier? What do you expect from your research is about to happen with all the world meltdowns and world government being announced and the media admitting Bilderberg runs things? And I mean, with all this craziness, what's going to happen next?
Well, the biggest thing that's facing us here in America is the destruction of our money. And when our dollar is worthless, that's going to have so many wide-ranging ramifications, including riots. That's why you see a lot of things being done to prepare for riots. Our whole lives are going to be turned upside down. And because of that, people need to start listening to the kind of things that you're telling them, you know. They need to start taking, they need to be responsible for their own health. Don't depend upon the medical system, which is really not there to help you anyway. It's there to make money for the people that control it. They need to start identifying those things out there, the products out there that will give them health. There's been a lot of research, you know, clear back in the 70s when I visited Mexico, in Tijuana, there was like 15 different cures being practiced in Tijuana to help people with cancer.
Well, I know there are treatments that work better statistically than the chemotherapy and burning things, and one man's cure is another man's disease, but there's certainly a lot of suppressed healthcare things. I mean, look at this out of Orlando. Look at this article right here. Deputies, man says he shot deer from roadway to feed family. And that happened during the Great Depression. I mean, there's deer like roaches in Florida, Texas, all over. Just let them get run over. Let them starve to death. A Collier County man accused of shooting 2 deer says he needed to feed his family. Jail records show 41-year-old Wilford Castillo was arrested Friday on charges of unlawful taking a doe deer, discharging a firearm from a public roadway, and felony trespassing by projectile. His court date is June 11th. And again, I'm not saying it's good that he was shooting deer off a roadway, but meanwhile, all these mass crimes are being committed. Corzine's stealing billions. Obama's giving billions to energy companies knowing it's a fraud. All that's fine, though. I mean, we're entering this phase that tyrants like to set up where they just get everybody to go, okay, they're tyrants, but that's just, you know, they're the boss. And everybody's like a spectator. I mean, is there a way to break people out of this malaise, Fritz?
I believe so. Like the scripture says, the truth shall make you free, and you shall be free indeed. The first step is realizing what's happening, the truth, and that truth will set you free. Christ is about liberty. It says in the scriptures that we're in all these things, we're more than conquerors. So people need to take an attitude of faith that they can rise up and they can take responsibility and they can do positive things. You're not sitting back and whining. You're getting up, you're standing up, and you're doing something.
No, exactly. I'm here to get people to realize the power they have, but the big problem is the churches, as you know, through the World Council of Churches have been taken over. They tell them, lay down to tyranny. Of course, that's totally unbiblical, and I think that's our biggest problem. Talk about the infiltration of the churches by the Illuminati from your research, Fritz.
Wow. An earlier book that I came out with, Be Wise as Serpents, went denomination by denomination and showed how the leaders, how the churches had been, denominations had been created and how they were being controlled by the system. And, you look at Rockefeller foundations being used to finance a lot of these churches. So these churches, they're not going to bite the hand that feeds them. And then you also have the government coming in and in certain ways regulating these churches that become businesses. Across the board, we just see an apostasy where people have turned their back on the truth and are just going for a warm, fuzzy entertainment. The people can. It's such a vast subject that I can't even get into it. But they're welcome to look at some of my other material that I've written and get the details, because it can be documented how Christendom is just being controlled. Like you say, the World Council of Churches. You look at who has been the heads of the World Council of Churches and who's promoted it.
Yeah, the war on Christmas and Christianity is happening from within. Just Christians notice the stuff that's overt, taking down crosses from without. But if the churches had leaders, they would be standing up and defeating this. They replace Easter with an egg. They replace Christ at Christmas with a demonic super dwarf running around with a Jack Daniels bottle named Santa Claus, which was actually 200 years ago in England. They would rape and rob and burn the city. Look it up, folks. Christmas was banned in England. It was so violent. It was a big devil worship holiday. But again, people don't know this. It's like Freddy Krueger night. Santa Claus is like Freddy Krueger. We'll be right back. I don't care who you are individually. The whole thing's illegitimate. I'm done playing games with the facade, okay? I'm done. I'm done. Got a bunch of crazy devil worshipers running the planet. Skull and Bones, Bohemian Grove. I've covered it. I've investigated it. I've broke into it. It's real. And it's crazy. And evil people run the planet because good people won't get up and stop them. And I'm sick of it. Let's go to Sarah in California. You're on the air with Fritz Springmeier. Go ahead.
I have a question about all these disappearances of people lately.
Yeah, I missed part of what you said. It's our phone system or whatever, your phone. But you have a question. Go ahead.
Fritz, I would like your take on all these disappearances of kids and people lately.
Well, I mean, most of them are getting kidnapped by big corporations and flying them overseas to Saudi Arabia, Thailand, Israel, other areas. They got black sites all over the place. These rich people pay high dollar to kill kids and eat them. It's a big part of their religion. Fritz Springmeier, what do they do with the kids they grab?
Wow. Yeah, a lot of them are used for sacrifices. That's one of the uses. Sometimes we have parents that are in a divorce that take a child, so there's also that factor coming into the statistics. We also have runaways, children that have just decided to be independent. So you have a lot of, you have different things happening as far as the total statistics.
Oh, yeah, a lot of the people they grab, the runaways, though, end up getting grabbed by the bigger spiders.
And some of these young teenagers, they don't know what they're getting into. They run away from home, and they're grabbed by people and shipped over to some place like Saudi Arabia and turned into sexual slaves. There is white slavery. So a lot of really sad things happening. Not a pretty picture. And I spoke with one man who actually stopped. There were some children that had been kidnapped the day before Halloween, and he happened upon a human sacrifice by a satanic coven. He called the police, and the police told him, "You're deputized, you're going to go up there and help us stop this." And they ended up having to, as they approached the coven leader tried to go ahead and sacrifice these two little children, both of them blonde-haired, blue-eyed, and the police actually had to shoot the two coven leaders to prevent the sacrifice of these children.
And that happens all the time, and the police are told, it's come out in the news, but I've been told, they're told, call it a drug rage, and the person was going to hurt children. Every time they catch them, the media does not want it known there's devil worship. Why is that?
Yeah, well, who owns the media? We get, these medias are just one vast monopoly, and from the top down, they kill those stories. Yeah, I've talked to people repeatedly. Like one man, he photographed from a distance a satanic ritual happening, and he gave it to the he gave it to the state police.
Stay there. Fritz, that's a whole other subject. I should get my research team to pull up the hundreds of mainstream media admitted cases where Satanists are sacrificing children, and then it's never even a big news story. You'd think that'd be a big news story. That's sensational, but they keep it quiet. Or when they find a castle full of women tortured to death in France, that happens all the time. It's a minor footnote. Or Tony Blair is going to satanic rituals, or Francois Mitterrand was an admitted Luciferian. I mean, we're run by devil worshippers. And then it all makes sense. You're like, wow, no wonder this is so bad. No wonder this is so crazy. I mean, I'm sure you've seen the cases now where they're busting abortuaries, where it turns out they're doing stuff with the kids' bodies too. Well, I mean, no kidding. Who wants to take that job, and who wants to do partial birth abortions, folks? Who wants to kill 9-month-old babies? I mean, you got to be a sicko. A sicko. Fritz Springmeier, comments on that?
Yeah, I'm just listening and tracking what you're saying and agreeing. To finish my thought, I was talking about a man who, using telephoto lens, had photographed one of these sacrificial rituals. And, a ritual is a murder. It's a crime. So he turned these over to the local police. And the next thing that happened was the Kansas Bureau of Investigation came down, snatched up all the photographs, and they disappeared. Another man was monitoring from a distance a ritual. And guess who was doing the patrolling and the protection and the guarding of the ritual? It was the county sheriff department. So the wolf is guarding the chicken coop, and then they tell us that these things don't happen, and yet, like you say, they're happening all around us, and yet we're not being allowed to realize the intensity of it all.
All I know is I see people out in some field getting ready to butcher a little kid. It's going to be 50 cal or Lapua time. And I guess I'm a criminal, though, if I would shoot Satan worshipers trying to kill a child. See, in the new America, we're the bad guys.
Yeah.
I mean, it's their right to religion to grab a kid off the street or out of a house and kill him. I mean, We're bad people, Fritz, that we would not want to do that.
Yeah, things have been right is wrong and wrong is right. Things have been stood on their head. But that shouldn't keep us from doing what's right, and one should continue to think on good things and focus on good examples and be the type of person that God would want us to be.
Fritz Springmeier, I agree with you completely. We don't have time to get to other callers, but I will get to the other calls coming up. But I want to get you back on again to specifically get into the Satanism angle, because all of this is a sacrifice. Even if they're not consciously into the occult, these CPS people drugging the little kids till they die, they enjoy it, they laugh about it. It's all about scum having power. And that's what evil is. It's big groups of weak people getting together to oppress the strong and the weak individually. And it's just people that never get sick of pressing on the nerve of power. It's just all about the raw exercise of power. And there's never enough, and I'm sick of them waging war against innocence, creativity, and everything that's good. And I pledge and swear on the altar of God eternal resistance against every form of tyranny over the mind of humankind and everyone that attacks innocence, because my only desire is to see them strung up by their necks until dead. Bloodlines, the Illuminati, available at Infowars.com. Get it and find out how deep the rabbit hole goes. Ask yourselves, what are you doing in this time of great challenge? What are you doing to unlock minds?